how are things spiritual?
Oh, that I cannot say. If I say they are satisfactory, I'm guilty of presumption, whereas if I say they are bad, I'm committing the sin of despair.
Well answered. I have been looking at the fishing boats, and the thought occurred to me that there is something that has not changed in 2,000 years. The fishermen, the boats, and their nets.
Yes. The humblest of men. And yet when he called to them, they followed.
Oh, no. No, not quite. Not before he'd entertained them with a little magic. Didn't he walk on the water?
That was later.
Was it? Oh. Well, he did do something. Oh, yes. He filled their nets with fish. Now, do you think, Father, that by so doing he might have laid himself open to a charge of bribery? Or do I presume too much in our friendship? Have I offended you?
Who am I to be offended?
And yet I have done.
No, not at all, not at all. Although I admit that if one of my own had said that...
Oh, I see. You mean you could take it in your stride because it's exactly the kind of thing that you would expect from a Protestant? Capital.
Mr. Yearling.
Oh, do forgive me, Father. Among my many failings is a somewhat unbridled sense of humour. But if you are truly not offended, you must prove it by having coffee with me. The Royal Irish is a mere 2 minutes away.
Oh, I should be delighted. Delighted. As a matter of fact, this is a day out of the ordinary for me.
Indeed.
Yes, that post I was telling you about.
It has been approved.
Yes. I'm to be transferred to my new parish early next year.
Splendid. My heartiest congratulations.
Thank you.
So, you will be leaving the flesh pots of Kingstown. Well, we shall miss you. But, if it isn't too personal a question...
Yes?
This desire that you have to work, well, in the slums, one might say, is it because you have a genuine affection for the poor, or because you think you ought to?
An extraordinary question.
Nothing. The man I saw the day of the procession.
Well, here we are at last. Home sweet home.
Didn't I know they'd be in on top of us? And the cut of him. Wouldn't even put his boots on. Here's herself at long last.
Mary, this is Mrs. Fartle I told you about.
I'm sure now, me name was never off your lips. You're heartily welcome. And you, will you stand up and be polite? Will you do that much?
Long suffering comes at last. How are you, Mary?
I'm pleased to meet you. In stocking feet. Where would you think he was brung up?
Well, I believe in starting as you mean to continue. Sure, Mary and I'll get on like a house on fire. Fitz, don't just stand there. Take the girl's coat. Sit over here, Mary, till I tell you about that go-boy you're knocking about with.
You will not sit over there. You can all pull up while I put the tea on to draw. And you, will you not be so helpless? Lay it inside in the bed. Man, there's not one of them any different from the next. Still, if he's as good a husband now as he is a lodger, he'll do. And you stir yourself and sit there and make a start. Swear to God, it's a miracle they don't expect us to tie their bibs on and spoon feed them. And you bless yourself.
Come home with that, you dirty little bugger.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm luckier than some having steady employment. But still, there's not an awful lot you can put by, so it's going to take some time. Maybe even a year. That's if we can find some place to live.
When you do move out of here, we'll miss you. I hope to God we'll have something coming in by then.
We will.
So you say.
Now look, if Jem Larkin's word is not good enough for you...
Larkin?
Ah, did you not hear? He's in town.
You saw him?
I spoke to him, through his God. And he said he's going to put a stop to the stevedores paying us in the pubs.
Oh, Jim, that's great news. I'm delighted. Jim was on the dock, you see.
I was, you mean?
And when the stevedores pay the dockers, they always manage to pay them in a pub, which means that the dockers have to shell out and buy them a pint. Do you get the idea?
Only I got fed up having my arm twisted. So I said I wasn't putting up any more free drink.
And the upshot of it was he hasn't worked since.
That's terrible.
Ah, never fear. Jem Larkin is the boy, I'll fix it.
Aye, and while he's fixing it, will he find you a job?
Now that'll come. Bide your hour.
Well, I hope it comes soon, before Christmas does. I'll have to go shortly. Miss Gilchrist isn't too well. I thought to give her a hand. She took the time. Jim, come into the room. I want to talk to you about that business. You know what I mean.
Oh, aye. Excuse me.
Excuse us.
God bless you, girl. I was dying for that. Give me a few more minutes now and I won't know myself.
I think you should stay in bed.
What? But the drawing room to do and every stick of furniture to be moved for the sweeping.
You won't be able for it.
Ah, it won't take a feather out of me. It was only a bad turn. A nice sight I'd be lying in bed acting the lady in the world well aired.
Mary, are you upstairs?
Yes, ma'am?
Would you come down to the drawing room, please?
She wants me. Look, stay where you are, Miss Gilchrist. You know you're not well.
I'm well enough to do a day's work. Now you do your share and leave me to do mine.
Mary.
Coming, ma'am. Yes, ma'am?
Mary, I've had a letter from your father.
Is something the matter? Is one of them sick?
They're all perfectly well. However, when I last wrote to your father, I mentioned the aunt in Dublin whom you visit so often.
Oh.
It seems there is no such person. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You've been telling us lies. Oh, Mary, how could you be so wicked? Your father is most upset. I'm quite sure he thinks Mr. Bradshaw and I have been negligent.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
And what necessity was there for it? Did I ever refuse you permission to go out?
No, ma'am. You've been very kind to me.
Then why?
Oh, for heaven's sake, you know why. You know quite well.
Is that it, child? Have you been meeting people, I mean of the opposite sex?
I've been meeting a young man. The same young man.
You see?
And have you and...
There's been nothing wrong between us, ma'am, if that's what you mean.
I believe you. I'm glad. Very well, child. We'll talk of this again. Now go about your work. Such an unpleasant business. What on earth are we going to do?
Do? It's perfectly clear what we must do. The girl leaves here and the sooner the better.
But she's done nothing morally wrong.
We have only her word for that.
Well, I believe her.
You believe too in her imaginary aunt.
Perhaps if you were to give her a strong talking to...
What?
Well, we can't possibly send her packing without a clear reference. Who else would employ her?
She should have thought of that before she abused our trust and took up with the young blackguard. We pay for trustworthiness, my dear. We must make sure that we get it.
I should like to feel in myself that we are being quite fair.
Oh, sick and tired of being lectured about my duty towards the lower orders. What about their duty to us? Every Sunday that man O'Connor climbs into the pulpit and carries on about the hardships of the poor, as if it was a crime to wear a coat without a hole in it. Not surprised the parish priest won't talk to him. But now you start.
No, Ralph, I only meant to...
How dare you come in here without knocking?
It is Miss Gilchrist. She's lying on the floor upstairs.